Chapter 1, The Forgotten Cry. From They Thought No Help Would Come, Then a Human Warship Howled from the Void. HFY Sci-fi Story. The message was already decaying, flickering audio, half-erased telemetry, heat-sick radiation buzzing through static. But the voice still cut through. To any human vessel. This is Varela 9. We are under attack. Repeat, we are under a signal lost. Imani Voss didn't blink. Her eyes remained locked on the swirling mess of coordinates the AI had reconstructed. Her hands, steady and calloused, hovered over the flight controls of the HWS Revenant, the rogue dreadnought she'd stolen 2 years ago. Orion, she said quietly, is it confirmed? The ship's AI responded with its usual clipped precision. Confirmed. Signal originated from civilian distress beacon Zeta 27 on Varela 9. Population, 2,300. Estimated survivors, unknown. Hostile ships, Sular Dominion signature detected. 12 capital vessels. At least. Voss leaned back in the command chair, lips pressing into a hard line. The display shimmered with tactical projections, red stars bleeding into blue. The odds? Laughable. The fleet arrayed against a colony with no guns, no shields, no hope. She remembered Varela 9 vaguely. A mining outpost that barely made it onto Earth Command's strategic charts. Plasma cores. Harsh winters. No reason to defend it, at least, not officially. Earth won't send anyone, she said aloud. No official dispatch recorded. Probability of response, under 3%. Earth Command has reallocated to the core systems per Directive S-51. Cowards, she spat. Orion paused. Accurate. Silence fell over the bridge. The Revenant floated in a deep space dead zone, hidden between pulse shadows of twin collapsed stars. A ghost in the void. No one knew it still flew. That's how Voss had kept it alive, and how she intended to keep it dangerous. Plot a course, she ordered. Toward Varela 9? No. Toward hell. Just make sure we arrive loud. Orion complied, systems coming alive. Stealth hull panels shimmered from matte black to deep violet. Engines spun with low growls of ancient power. Somewhere beneath, the Revenant's fusion core trembled like a waking beast. Meanwhile, light years away, the skies over Varela 9 were burning. From the mountains, colonists watched as the Dominion's Fifth Fleet carved glowing scars into the planet's surface. The air was choked with ash. Fires dotted the horizon like angry eyes. Refugees crowded into the mineral shafts, the only shelter that hadn't collapsed. Children whimpered in silence. Adults didn't speak at all. Mayor Lorne, face streaked with grime, crouched beside the failing comm unit. Its panels were cracked. Power was flickering again. He turned to the technician beside him, a girl no older than 17, her hands shaking as she tried to realign the signal. Anything? He asked. She shook her head. He sighed. They won't come. Then, somewhere above, a scout ship passed low. Its engines hummed with menace. The people froze. And high above them, hidden just beyond the moon's curve, something else moved. As the Revenant broke FTL, the hull shimmered, displacing visible light like a serpent shedding its skin. Imani Voss stood in the forward observation deck, arms crossed, armor sealed tight. Her eyes reflected the curve of the dying world ahead. Skin their fleet, she said. Orion's voice echoed through her suit. Sular formation is textbook Dominion doctrine. Main warship is the blood cry. Command vessel. High Marshal Karek Varn on board. Imani exhaled. That name. She knew it. Varn had led the Helios Drift campaign. Left 3 million humans stranded, including her unit. He never even acknowledged their surrender request. He'd burned every shuttle out of orbit. So he'd come here, now. To a civilian colony. Target priority 1, she said. Full stealth mode. Begin long-range disruptor calibration. and prep message burst. To Earth Command? To the colony. Let them know, they're not alone. Acknowledged. The Revenant moved like a phantom, unseen, unheard. It slipped past the Dominion perimeter and descended into the lower orbit. From here, the ship's sensor grid could tap into the surface frequencies. One spike. A moment of static. Then, connection. Unknown vessel. Please identify. This is Mayor Lorne of Varela 9. Who are you? Imani stepped forward. This is Captain Voss. You don't know me. Doesn't matter. I'm the last help you're getting. Tell your people to hold. There was a long pause. Then, how many ships do you have? She smirked. 1. And it's enough. She cut the link. On board the Bloodcry, High Marshal Karek Varn stared at a holographic tactical report. His second-in-command, a wiry, long-necked officer with reflective eyes, leaned in. There's a disturbance, the officer said. What kind of disturbance? Varn asked. We lost a freighter. No sensor record. No explosion. It simply vanished. Varn raised an eyebrow. Cloak ship? Possibly. Human signature, Old Earth Navy tech. Dreadnought class, by the size of the Energy Echo. The High Marshal laughed, low and throaty. One ship. They sent one? He stood slowly, arms behind his back, and turned toward the viewport. Varela's burning horizon glimmered beyond the glass. No, he said. That's not Earth. That's someone else. Inside the Revenant, battle stations hummed. The crew? None. Just Imani and the ship's AI. She preferred it that way. Disruptor armed, said Orion. Targeting the munitions hauler in Quadrant 4. Fire. The blast came and went in total silence. A pinpoint ripple in space, and then the Dominion ship fractured mid-flight. No explosion. Just emptiness where it had been. The others noticed. Domino effect triggered, Sular ships flared shields, scattered formations. Confusion spread like blood in water. Voss grinned. Let's give them something to talk about. An hour later, under the frozen crust of Varela 9, a boy crouched near the tunnel mouth. He heard the shift in the sky before anyone else. The screaming started softly. A howling sound, metal and rage, cutting through the clouds. He ran to the edge of the rocks and looked up. A single ship, massive, black as the void, descended with fire trailing in its wake. Mom, he whispered. Something's coming. She joined him a moment later. Her eyes widened. It wasn't the Sular. It didn't move like them. It moved like it was angry. Then the ship passed overhead, and they saw the human symbol carved into its side. A single word, Revenant. Chapter 2, Revenant Unleashed. From They Thought No Help Would Come, then a human warship howled from the void. HFY Sci-fi story. Beneath the frozen crust of Varela 9, Imani's voice came through a re-established encrypted channel. The air in the shelter was still dusty, thick with fear, but the survivors clung to the signal like breath itself. Mayor Lorne, I've compromised their communications grid. You're safe from bombardment, for now. The mayor, exhausted and pale, leaned into the transmitter. We saw your ship. The children think it's a myth. Some kind of avenging ghost. Voss's voice didn't change. Let them believe that, if it keeps them strong. High above the surface, the Revenant stalked through shadow. Its hull blended with space, absorbing light, silent and impossible to track. Around it, the Sular fleet had begun erratic adjustments. Panic. They hadn't faced human stealth tech in generations, especially not this variant. 3 ships down, Orion reported. They've retracted perimeter scouts. Formation tightening. Imani paced the command deck, armor humming faintly. Classic Dominion response. They're bracing for an assault they don't understand. Orion paused. Would you like to begin the real attack? Not yet. They don't know I'm alone. Let that fear soak in. She moved to the holotable and pulled up a scan of the underground mine networks. What's our update from the survivors? Rations down to days. 1 medical unit functioning. 58 wounded. 8 children unaccounted for. Imani nodded once. Prepare drop pod supply crates. Food, meds, signal flares. No weapons. I won't give the Dominion an excuse to flatten them. You are risking exposure. I'm not risking their lives. Without another word, Orion's drones deployed. Hidden compartments opened beneath the ship's hull, and pods shot toward the planet, flashing bright against the clouds, then vanishing into the storm. Meanwhile, aboard the Dominion flagship Bloodcry, High Marshal Karak Varn watched with simmering hatred. Still no visual? He growled. No confirmed location, High Marshal, replied his operations commander. But we just intercepted unauthorized surface drops, human relief capsules. Varn's jaw twitched. So the ghost has a conscience. He turned from the screen, voice low. Prepare bombardment patterns. If the humans want to help the rats, let them burn with them. High Marshal, the officer said, hesitant, we've traced the drops to the southern ridge. That's where their civilian core is believed to be. Varn smiled coldly. Then target the southern ridge. Imani heard it before Orion reported it, shifting fleet behavior, maneuver alignments too familiar to be anything else. They're going to glass the southern tunnels. Confirmed, Orion responded. Orbital weapon signatures charging. Time to impact, 4 minutes. Then we move. The Revenant shot forward, cloak flickering as it surged toward the orbital artillery barge positioned at the fleet's rear. Imani didn't wait. Her voice was steel. Lock targeting on the Brine Fong, central beam cannon. Begin overload spike. No warnings. Understood. A pulse cannon spun beneath the dreadnought's frame and discharged a precision EM spear, piercing the Sular cannon's core. In seconds, the Brine Fong buckled, its weapons exploding inward. A chain reaction detonated across its length, sending wreckage into the surrounding void. Chaos erupted. Now, she said, teeth clenched. We show them fear. The Revenant descended into the formation like a god of war. Imani twisted through tight angles, weapons cycling in perfect rhythm. Drones deployed, slicing into exposed holes, attaching disruptors that tore through power grids. One Sular destroyer fired blindly, its plasma beams missed the Revenant but struck a companion cruiser. More chaos. Orion chimed in. Captain, transmission from Bloodcry. High Marshal requests direct contact. Imani's mouth curled. Let him wait. She looped under a carrier, dropped mines into its hangar bay, then cut engines and vanished back into the asteroid field nearby. Moments later, the mines detonated. The carrier split in two. 4 capital ships gone. The fleet scattered. Now, she said calmly, patch him through. High Marshal Karek's face filled the screen, scales glossy, eyes burning. You. Human female. Do you have a name? Imani Voss, she replied, helmet still on. Her voice echoed with modulated ice. You may remember Helios Drift. Karek narrowed his eyes. Ah. The coward who ran. I didn't run, she said. I buried my command, salvaged a stolen ghost, and spent 2 years waiting to kill you. The Marshal leaned forward. You can't win. Earth won't save this colony. Their silence is your death sentence. I'm not Earth. I'm worse. I'm the consequence. And she cut the line. Back in the tunnels, Mayor Lorne received another signal burst. Bombardment neutralized. Multiple enemy ships disabled. Supply drops successful. Status? He replied with awe in his voice. You're holding them off, alone? For now. Tell the civilians to remain hidden. Don't draw attention. And if anyone asks, tell them the dead came back angry. The people cheered quietly in the dark. A few cried. The silence of despair had broken. Karak raged across the bridge of the blood cry. "Recall the fleet," he ordered. "New plan." We bade her. His eyes locked onto a feat of the colony. "Start pulling civilians to the surface. Targeted raids. Let's see if she can protect all of them." On board the Revenant, alarms flashed. Orion's voice was flat. "Sular units mobilizing towards civilian escape routes. They've changed tactics." Imani stared at the screen. The dots marked civilian heat signatures had begun to flicker. The enemy wasn't just bombing anymore. They were hunting. Bastards. She turned to the weapons console. Her hands hesitated. To stop this, she'd have to drop cloak. Fire openly. Be seen. Vulnerable. Orion read her silence. Tactical cloak deactivation confirmed? She sighed. No more shadows. Time to make them look me in the eye. The cloak lifted. Across the skies of Varela 9, a single black warship cut through the stone like a sword, no longer hiding, no longer whispering. The Revenant opened fire. Beams of condensed plasma shredded dropships in midair. Railguns picked off Sular raiders just before they reached the tunnels. Each hit was a warning, "You are not welcome here." From the depths of the colony, people stared skyward. The howling engine roar had returned, louder now. Closer. Hope wasn't a word anymore. It was a sound. The sound of a human warship, screaming in defiance. Chapter 3, The Howl from the Void. From They Thought No Help Would Come, then a human warship howled from the void. HFY Sci-fi story. The Revenant bled from its hull. Gashes along the outer plates glowed red-hot. Ion feedback danced over the exposed underbelly. The stealth matrix had overloaded hours ago. Shields barely held. A swarm of Sular interceptors closed in like circling wolves. Inside, Captain Imani Voss stood steady, her breathing shallow, face lit only by flickering damage reports. "Orion," she said quietly, "how long do we have?" "Structural failure in 26 minutes. Enemy reinforcements inbound. We cannot hold this position." She tapped a cracked console. "Not trying to hold. Just trying to end it." "Ah," Orion said. "Then it is time for the Eclipse Protocol." Imani nodded. "Prep the drones. Set phase Eclipse to maximum decoy split. Route my neural uplink to secondary systems. I'm boarding the blood cry." Alone? Wouldn't be the first time. The Dominion flagship hovered like a predator. Its armored plates gleamed gold and crimson, its size dwarfing the shattered remains of nearby ships. A symbol of conquest, unchallenged for decades. Until now. A small black dart, a single dropship, slipped through its underbelly. No alarms. No defenses activated. The Revenant's cloaked decoys had flooded the sensors with 1,000 false echoes. Inside that dart, Imani Voss adjusted the seal on her helmet and readied her disruptor blade. Her HUD displayed a 3D schematic of the flagship's main corridor. Red dots, guards. Blue, access points. Gold, Karak's command deck. Orion, final command override. If I don't return in 20 minutes, activate core surge. Burn the whole fleet. That is unwise, Orion warned. Wasn't asking for approval. She stepped into the dark and opened the hatch. The halls of the blood cry were humid and reeking of chemical oil. Dominion warships were built for intimidation, not comfort. Tall, sharp-angled corridors, walls lined with bone trophies, each one bleached and tagged. Human. Sular. Dozens of species. Imani moved like shadow, blade in hand. A guard turned the corner. She dropped him silently. Another passed by a doorframe. 2 strikes, no sound. Minutes ticked by. Her uplink whispered telemetry, heartbeat, hull pressure. The Revenant was fading. "Orion," she whispered. "Ready to purge the decoys?" 15 remain. The fleet still believes we're a formation. Suggest delay. She crouched beneath a grate. Beyond it, Karek's command chamber. No. Let them watch what happens when the mask falls. Inside the command deck, High Marshal Karek Varn stared into a swirling hologram of the system, tracking phantom ships and chasing illusions. His rage twisted every word. This is deception, he barked. Find the real ship. It's not a fleet, it's something else. Suddenly, the blast doors hissed. Voss stepped through. No fanfare. No backup. Just her silhouette framed in smoke and static. Karek, she said, you wanted to meet your ghost. The chamber erupted. Sular soldiers lunged. Imani moved like a storm. Her disruptor blade carved arcs through the air, each swing precise. One fell, then another. Sparks lit the floor. Karek roared, drawing a jagged plasma halberd. You are filth, he hissed. A traitor to your species. Imani charged. They collided mid-room. Sparks flew. Blade met halberd, steel and plasma locked. Karek was stronger, but she was faster. He slammed her back against the wall. You die alone, he growled. She smiled through bloodied lips. No. I die after you. She drove her blade upward, into his exposed jaw. The halberd dropped from his grip. His eyes, wide with disbelief, met hers for a final second. Then the High Marshal of the 5th Subjugation Fleet collapsed. Back on the Revenant, alarms screamed. The AI spoke evenly. Core destabilization complete. Initiating override. The decoy drones blinked out one by one. The illusion shattered. The Sular fleet suddenly saw the truth. A single ship. A broken dreadnought. But they saw it too late. Inside the flagship, Imani limped back toward her shuttle. Flames licked the ceiling. Power conduits exploded. She felt the heat on her armor. Orion, she gasped. Begin core surge. Understood. The sky outside changed. First, light. Then, noise. Not the sound of explosion, but of space itself cracking. The Revenant's final gift, a directed core burst, amplified through the enemy flagship systems. One after another, the Dominion ships caught fire, caught the signal, caught the end. The next morning, Varella's sky was empty. Ash drifted like snow. From the tunnel mouth, children looked up. One of them pointed. There, he whispered. Look. Above the mountain ridge, a charred pod descended on a parachute. When it hit the snow, Mayor Lorne and 2 medics rushed to it. Inside, smoke hissing from the seams, lay Imani Voss, armor scorched, skin torn, chest barely rising. She opened her eyes. Lorne knelt beside her. Who are you? Her voice was hoarse, barely a whisper. Nobody important. But you came. Because no one else would. He gripped her hand. The colony is safe. We saw everything. You did that. She turned her head slightly, toward the sunrise. Good. Then she passed out. Hours later, as cleanup began, a boy stood on the cliff and stared at the blackened sky. They thought no one would help us, he said. Beside him, a girl added, then a human ship came screaming from the void. They didn't say her name. They didn't need to. The story would carry it forever. Chapter 4, The Echo That Stayed. From They Thought No Help Would Come, then a human warship howled from the void. HFY Sci-fi story. The wreckage of the Revenant still glowed in low orbit, scattered across the outer atmosphere like coals from a dead fire. Its last surge had taken the Sular fleet with it, along with every tactical satellite in the system. The stars were silent now. No signals. No threats. But the silence wasn't hollow anymore. It felt earned. Imani Voss lay unconscious in the colony's makeshift medbay, hooked to tubes and machines salvaged from old mining rigs. Her armor had been cut off in pieces. One lung had collapsed. Her left femur shattered. Shrapnel lined her ribs like broken glass. She should have been dead. Vitals holding, the nurse whispered. Mayor Lorne stood by the cot. His eyes hadn't closed in 2 days. He didn't speak, just watched her breathe, slow and mechanical. In that bed lay more than a soldier. She had become something else entirely. By the 3rd day, the storm passed. Dozens of Sular bodies had been recovered, most incinerated. The Dominion had left no trace of a second wave. No transmissions. No drones. Nothing. The colonists, once fractured by fear, moved with a quiet, determined rhythm. Digging graves. Repairing rooftops. Gathering wreckage to melt down. They were rebuilding, not because they were told to, but because they finally believed they could. Children whispered stories in the tunnels. The ghost ship. The woman who fought the sky. They drew pictures in ash, chalked engine trails onto rock walls. A boy with a bent mining tool stood at the top of a ladder and declared, "When I grow up, I'll fly like her." Hope had changed its shape. When Imani finally opened her eyes, the ceiling was unfamiliar. Rough stone. Low beams. A humming power core nearby. She blinked. Pain flared behind her ribs. "You're safe," Orion's voice murmured, broadcasting softly through a wrist module on the bedside table. "Colony secure. 78% of the population survived. Southern tunnels are intact." "How long?" she croaked. 4 days. "Your vitals were critical. Internal stabilizers compensated, but you required multiple transfusions." She groaned. "The ship? Gone." A pause. But the name survived. Later that day, Mayor Lorne visited. He brought her tea made from local fungus root and an old, bent datapad. "I thought you'd want to see this." He opened the file. A recording began, grainy footage from a child's wearable cam. The sky, burning. The Revenant diving through flame. A thunderous howl, like the wind itself was screaming in fury. Then silence. Then cheering. Imani closed her eyes. "You kept the footage?" Lorne nodded. "We sent it to Earth Command this morning." She looked up sharply. "Why?" "Because they need to remember what happens when they stop answering calls for help." She exhaled. "They'll bury it. They'll say it was unauthorized, maybe even illegal. I stole that ship, remember?" "They can't bury the sky," he said. "Not anymore." 2 weeks passed. Imani walked again, with a cane, slow steps, but upright. The colony held a gathering on the ridge where her pod had landed. A fire burned in a circle of scavenged metal. Children played with mock ship controls built from scrap. The air had grown warmer. Mayor Lorne addressed the crowd. "We were marked for extinction. And no one was coming. That's what we believed. Until the stars opened, and something howled." He gestured toward Imani, who stood quietly at the back, arms crossed, cloak wrapped tight. This woman didn't have to come. She had every reason to stay hidden. But she came anyway. Imani stepped forward. The crowd fell silent. Even the wind stilled. "I didn't do this to be thanked," she said. "I did it because I was once in a place just like this. Cut off. Waiting. Watching. Knowing no help would come. That feeling doesn't leave you." She paused. "So when I heard your call, I didn't come because I was brave. I came because I remembered." A girl raised her hand. "Will you leave now?" Imani looked to the sky. The Revenant was gone. Her war had ended. But there were other colonies. Other signals. Other silences. "Yes," she said. "But not forever." The next morning, she packed what little she had, a salvaged blaster, a fresh coat, a new datapad. She walked to the outskirts, where the colony's last scout ship had been retrofitted with parts from the Sular wreckage. Mayor Lorne stood at the ramp. "We fixed her up," he said. "Won't fly like your last ship, but she'll get you somewhere." Imani climbed aboard. The seat was stiff. The panels buzzed wrong. But it would do. As she powered up, Orion's voice returned. "New name for this vessel?" She thought for a long moment. Then smiled. "Call it Echo. Because sometimes, all the universe needs is a reminder." As the ship lifted off, the children chased it across the ridge, waving. Above them, the stars watched. Quiet. Listening. And somewhere, across the void, in the places where hope was dying, a new signal began to pulse.